Leanne and welcome back to another video. Wow, it's a little bit echoey in here. Maybe opening the door will help. Please hold. Did that work? A little bit. Okay, we'll go with that. That again. Hi guys, it's Leanne and welcome back to another video. As you can once again see from my change in location, I am not in fact in my house and I am still in Becca's house as of the time of recording this. By the time that you see it, I will be home with my own fuzzy babies who I am starting to miss like really desperately. Which is super sad because I just want to take Brie and Hamilton home with me too. But just to counter the amount of fun that I have been having, I am here once again to do another try a chapter tag. You guys will already have seen the try a chapter tag that I did, which was all of the fantasy books that I wanted to try from Becca's shelves. And I say all of them, but I may have tried a few more of them after I left. This tag, on the other hand, is trying the other bulk of Becca's collection. I would say from looking at it now that at least 2/3 of Becca's books are fantasy. But the other thing that Becca has a large collection of is romance. You guys know that for the most part of last year, in between every other book, I was trying you guys, to find romances that would work for me. Because it's not that I'm an anti-romance queer, I love love. It's just that what I discovered, or rather what my lovely partner in crime, Kirsty, informed me of about halfway through the year, was that I like romance as a subplot. I like there to be romance involved, I like there to be something that I can massively root for, but I don't want it to be the only thing that's driving the story, which is weird for me to realize because I like slice of life stuff in which the only thing that is driving the story is the characters' lives and their motivations. But I guess if you think about it that way, slice of life is broader than romance, and that we're seeing all of their relationships and all of the circumstances that they find themselves in. So all of that said, I decided that what I was going to do while I had Becca's shelves at my disposal was try out a few books, some of which I only know from the title or the author or the cover but don't actually know anything about, and some books which I know a little bit about the synopsis of but have been too afraid to buy for myself. And before you tell me to use my library, I do use my library quite a lot these days now that I have access to a better collection, but they still don't have a lot of romance books, so it's a lot harder to try before I buy. So let's head out to Becca's bookshelves because the romance ones live just outside of this bedroom and we will see what we find. Alright, so it is quite difficult to get into this corner in order to film me picking books because this is Becca's upstairs hallway and it is quite narrow here with the shelves, which I actually think is hilarious because you know that way where you watch vlogs a lot of the time from your favourite people, you're literally following them around their house and you still don't really know the layout of it. This place was like a weird wormhole coming into because nothing was the dimension that I thought that it was going to be. Okay, so choosing wise, we can definitely rule out the books that are on the top. I have tried Colleen Hoover and she's not for me. I have also tried and unhauled You Again. I've read the X-Hex and thought it was just whatever, and I'm not a Fourth Wing fan, and obviously we know that I'm a Lore Olympus devotee and I have these in my house. So we're going to be picking from the rest of the shelf. Sorry for shaky cam, the tripod's kind of precariously based on my boobs. I have also tried some Jennifer L. Armentrout before and wasn't a big fan. However, I haven't tried any Tessa Bailey, and that is somebody who gets recommended to me all the freaking time. And I have almost bought this book a couple of times because A, Lighthouse, and I am absolute trash for seasidey things. Typical Pisces girl, love the beach, love rugged coastlines, love cliffs, love lighthouses, all that kind of stuff. So this one does appeal to me. So I think I'm going to choose this one to start. Let's take you off the shelves. I'm constantly concerned that these are going to knock down on my head if I bounce too much on these floorboards. Becca did warn me about this. I'm also going to avoid Amanda Boucher because I know a bit more about this series and I don't really think it's for me. And honestly, as funny as this like try a chapter tag is because we know that I'm not a huge romance girly, I also am genuinely trying to find things that I would like to try. We're not just here to trash things, we're genuinely here to give them a good go. I don't know how I feel about continuing on with Magnolia Park. The first book was, I really enjoyed it, like I genuinely really enjoyed it, but it was super repetitive, and so I just don't know how I feel about the rest of it. So I think that I'm going to rule that one out. Ali Hazelwood. I know that Becca is absolutely devoted to Ali Hazelwood, like she's one of Becca's favourite authors ever. I am not a big fan of the Raylo thing, and in fact I think it needs to die a massive death. So I haven't really tried properly any Ali Hazelwood. However, we know that your girl, oh, this is pretty, look. We know that your girl particularly loves urban fantasy, and like I came up on that genre along with like, you know, crime and stuff. I think I'm going to try this one because werewolves are a thing. Okay, we're on the floor now. So I have tried and really loved Talia Hibbert. I have still not finished this trilogy. I have tried The Kiss Quotient and I didn't like it, so that one's going to stay where it is. See, I told you, I have done a lot of trying to be a romance girly, and it's just never worked out for me. However, in here, Becca has the 1st and the 5th, so I'm going to assume that these were like charity shop finds. How do I, oh, okay, I can do that, look. All right, let's not ruin Becca's bookcase. All right, so yes, definitely a charity shop find. Okay, so Becca has First Grave on the right, which is a Charlie Davidson book from Dorinda Jones. Okay, I didn't know the author's name. However, this is one of those urban fantasy series which has been around forever, and people keep telling me that I should read it, that it's really funny. So I think I'll give this one a go because I've never actually seen it in the wild before. All right, so that is us up to 3 books. Now, I think that I am going to give this one a try. This is Guild by Raven Kennedy, and it is the first, I think, in the Plated Prisoner series. Becca owns these in like these indie paperbacks and also the traditionally published ones now, and she seems to be quite obsessed with them. I know she's carried on with them this year, so I'm going to try this one because I feel like I should try some fantasy romance, being as it is Becca's shelves. Now, down the bottom, I actually have a Scarlet Sinclair on my shelf, so I can try that in my own sweet time. And I own Fortuna Sworn, albeit on my Kindle, so I'll probably never read it, but I do actually own it. I'm a little bit confused about the Nalini Singh that's here because I feel like Becca has said in the past that Nalini Singh is reverse harem, and Becca's not a fan of that. I've read Red, White and Royal Blue, and I really liked it, but I haven't liked any of Casey McKee's other stuff. Bitch. Okay. Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I really loved it right up until the end, until all of the reveals, and then I was so freaking furious about it. However, I ate up Daisy Jones and the Six, and this, if I'm correct, this is the book in which there are there's alternate parallel universes and 2 different paths for a character to take with 2 different relationships, and that sliding doors thing, that is such a thing for me. I love it. So okay, I think this is going to be our 5th one. So here we have our little collection that we are going to try before we buy. And once again, I'm just going to read them in the order in which they came off the shelves so that we don't prejudice it in any way. And while I read them, I'm going to put the freaking fan back on because I am dying. Bitch was not built for southern heat, guys. Okay, so here I am with my verdict, and I'm telling you right now, they weren't what I thought they were going to be. So the first one that I tried was, of course, It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. Now, I do know that this is at least a duology now because the other one is on BECCA'S shelves, but I have seen it before. So I don't know if this is going to end up being a series following other people in the town that they're in, which is something that really, really appeals to me. But I am super, super on the fence about this one. So this one follows Piper. She is an influencer, and quite honestly, if you just sit down and unpack it for a second, she is the 2024 Carrie Bradshaw. That's pretty much all she is. She is a curated Instagram feed, and literally all that she cares about is having her easy, very popular life. Now, obviously this book is heading on the trajectory of she doesn't get to keep that because she ends up in this tiny little fishing village, which is the plot of this. And there she meets a very handsome, rugged fisherman who's like, yeah, you're not gonna last a week here, honey. And so begins the romance. So the reason that I say that I am on the fence about this one is because I absolutely love the concept, and I don't even really care that Piper is right now extremely vapid and two-dimensional and a little bit pointless, because obviously that's the point of the book. Obviously we're getting an arc to the point where she isn't like that anymore. So the unlikability of Piper in the first chapter, which is quite short, is not enough to put me off. However, the writing kind of is enough to put me off. This one just is another one of those romance books which I feel like has very utilitarian writing. And again, I'm not somebody who needs massively flowery prose all the time to be happy, but I feel like this goes too far the other way. I feel like it's not only not flowery prose, it's just kind of boring. There's a couple of lines in here which is like, the host himself was 22 and embarking on a film career. This was Piper's career. Partying, being seen, holding up the occasional teeth whitening product and getting a few dollars for it. Not that she needed the money. And you know, all of those things are facts. They are all, I guess, important to the plot, but I feel like they're also the most obvious things about the plot. Like, I got all of that from the synopsis. There's no particularly nuanced discussions in here, and that kind of makes me a little bit annoyed, especially because on the back it says Tessa Bailey is back with a Schitt's Creek inspired rom-com, and as soon as I read that I was like, oh, I see what you're doing. Carrie Bradshaw's career with Alexis's original personality. The thing is, Alexis is charming and vulnerable in Schitt's Creek, and that's why it works. She doesn't know how broken she is. So I think that this one's going to be a no from me, and if I was honestly to rate the first chapter, I think I would very generously give it a 3. This one's definitely not one that I'm going to be picking up. The next one that I picked up was Bride by Ali Hazelwood, and as you saw with this one, I ended up kind of reading a little bit more than I meant to. I got all the way through the quite long prologue and the first chapter of this one, and I was kind of set to keep going. I didn't expect to like this one as much as I did, exclusively based on Ali Hazelwood's obsession with Raylo fanfic, but something about this just really clicked for me, and it felt deeply nostalgic whilst also being kind of super fresh, because this one is about Misery, and she is the daughter of a vampire, like a head vampire in this world, and she is going to be marrying a werewolf. The first time that she meets that werewolf is the day that she is marrying him, and they are doing it in order to secure an alliance to stop like long and very complicated war from starting again. Kind of like that classic fantasy trope that you see in like Game of Thrones when they send Marcella off to Dorne as a like token of their trust. But what I found really interesting in this one is that Misery is the vampire's daughter, but she is actively growing up in this book, and there are mentions in the first chapter of her needing blood. And so I'm assuming that vampirism works in this world kind of like lycanthropy does, where it's like a virus and you still get to have a growing up, and do you get to have the long life after it? I don't know. And I think that was one of the things that kept me reading. I was like, I want to know how it works in this world. How come these things are so different? And I'm also not gonna lie, I am a huge lover of like the fated mates trope. It comes from when I read urban fantasy way back in the day. It's kind of just imprinted on my teenage subconscious. Now I know that this book does have what some people consider to be quite extreme smut, but in that case I'm just kind of like, we're not really reading the same kind of smut if you think that that's extreme. What I'm saying is that it involves knotting, and if you don't know what that is, just Google it. But maybe don't, you know, Google image search if you're not ready for that kind of stuff. I think entirely based on how like compelled I was to keep reading it, I'm gonna give this one a 4 stars. And I'm gonna say that there's a good chance that if I can borrow this from somewhere, I probably will. Okay, so the next one that I have is this one, and I think the best thing that I have to say about this one is that I was unpleasantly surprised. When was this one first published? Because I really feel like, 2011. Okay, so this one is First Grave on the Right, and it is a Charlie Davidson book, the first one in the Charlie Davidson series. Charlie Davidson is, unsurprisingly for an urban fantasy series written in the 2000s, a private investigator. It is a trope that was not going anywhere. It will continue to not go anywhere. But as well as being a PI, she is also a Grim Reaper. So she does the job that you would expect her to do. And in the first chapter of this book, she is waking up from a sex dream to discover that she has been called on to do her reaping duties, something which she is not happy about given the circumstances. Now, classic urban fantasy with this kind of character, for me, can go one of two ways. It can go the way of Ilona Andrews and Patricia Briggs, as I mentioned, where I'm like, I absolutely love this. I recognise all the flaws in it, and yet I am still eating it up, and I think these books are a comfort series, etc, etc. Or they can go vastly the other way, which is like the Anita Blake series, which I was obsessed with back in the day because it was one of the first urban fantasy series that I ever discovered, but which I obviously have come to realise is like vastly problematic in a lot of different ways and has become reverse harem, which it was not in the start. And while I don't have anything against reverse harem or any kind of like poly relationships, I actually quite like that. There are a lot of like consent and other issues in those books that kind of just freak me out a little bit. And unfortunately, this one went the way of that series. From the very first page in this, I was getting big red flag alarm bells, and then within, I think, 3 pages or more, there were 2 entirely huge references to big fat shamey things, which I will not repeat here because I don't want to trigger anybody, but they were gross. And then the character started to talk about things like her shoes, and I was like, okay, do you know what? I am out. So yeah, this one is a 2-star, straight up 2-star, not even going to be generous about it, and 100% I'm not going to be picking this up no matter how many people tell me that I should. Next up, I tried Guild by Raven Kennedy, and okay, so let's just back up. I knew that this was a take on the King Midas myth, which is already a minus point for me. That's a myth that I don't particularly care about, and also I'm kind of really burned out on anything mythology at this point. I'm just so bored and over it. But damn, I did not expect to be as drawn into this as I was. This was another one where after the first chapter finished, I was like, no, I need more information. Our main character in this one is the plated prisoner. She's literally kept in a guild cage, and she belongs to the king, who of course in his palace has a bunch of concubines, or saddles as they're called in this book, and he indulges in different concubines every night in different combinations, and of course everybody is vying for the place at his side, but this particular prisoner is kept in a cage. And in this very first chapter there were a couple of like little hints to the politics of this world that really intrigued me, but apart from that, the writing is just banging. It is exactly what I was talking about that was missing from the Tessa Bailey thing. I don't particularly think our main character in this is likeable, and King Midas definitely is not likeable, but despite that I still want to know what she has to say because the writing is just teasing you. It's not just rehashing the premise and telling you once again what you get from the synopsis. Wow, I really sincerely did not expect to like this one as much as I do, and honestly, next time I'm allowed a free book from my bingo board, one that like doesn't cost me anything in my percentages or points, I think I might actually pick this up. And then finally, the last one that I tried, you can probably see the disappointment on my face, is maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And quite honestly, my conclusion to this one is like, yeah, maybe in another life I would have enjoyed this book, but in this one, not so freaking much. So essentially this one is about Hannah. She is 29, and because she's 29 going on 30, she's like, oh my god, like I need to get my life in order. I'm leaving my 20s. I don't know what I'm doing. She goes to celebrate her birthday at home with her friends from home, where she has moved home, and at that party her high school boyfriend offers her a ride home, and then it goes through a parallel universe as to like if she'd stayed with him versus what she's doing now and the choices that she's making now about him and about her relationship. And honestly, the first chapter was just like a big wah, wah, wah. I do not know, because obviously Taylor Jenkins Reid's books have all been repackaged, if this one was before or after Evelyn Hugo, but it feels like earlier writing. This was written in 2015, so I don't know off the top of my head. It feels like she's got a great premise, but she just can't get it over the line. The first chapter is literally just Hannah coming home on a plane and helping a woman who is sitting next to her with her plane fears and her hyperventilating. And then at the end of it, she gets to have a profound moment where she's like, oh, I don't know where I'm going in my life. And the woman's like, oh, it's okay, you're still young, you've got plenty of time. And she's like, I'm not young, I don't have plenty of time. And I was just like, oh. So first of all, we've got the trope of being 30 is not young. Like, okay, maybe in Jane Austen's time it wasn't young because everybody died when they were in their 40s. But then again, once again, Hannah is just massively vapid. Like, there's nothing in this first chapter to even hint to me that I might care about her further down the line. She's so freaking whiny, and I'm guessing that bad things have happened, that she's moving home. But so far, there's been no real hint of the bad things. It's just kind of been like, everything is so bad. I'm not going to take any active agency over fixing it. And frankly, the writing on its own is honestly just like, it does not have the appeal for me that Daisy Jones and the Six did, or that Evelyn Hugo did, because although I ended up being really angry at the twist in that book, despite that, I did really race through that book. I don't know. I really and honestly don't know. I don't think that I'm going to try picking this one up again, because it just feels like I could get the same story done slightly better somewhere else. I'm sure you guys could recommend me like a sliding doors, parallel universes, two different choice type of book. I'm absolutely sure you could. I'm challenging you to do it down below. I guarantee you could give me 10 other options. So there we go. Literally who thought that the two books out of this stack that I was going to be the most interested in reading from were gonna be these two? Like, essentially they are urban and fantasy romance. Who is she? Is it actually that maybe I should have been trying to read fantasy and urban romance all this time because they do have larger plots to pull it over the line for me? But either way, I definitely think that I am adding these two to my to read in the future pile, so I'm going to consider this try a chapter tag a success. Thank you to you guys for coming along on this wonderful ride with me. I hope you've enjoyed these last couple of videos sampling Becca's library, because I have had the best fun while I've been here, just like poking about and reading pages of books and picking up books that I have heard of but I've never actually had in my hands in person. And I have ended up with a bunch of books that I'm like, I really want that now. If you have got this far through the video, leave me either a bird or a wolf emoji down below for either the Ali Hazelwood or the Raven Kennedy. And as always, if you have read any of the books in this video and you want to tell me about them, whether that is a good thing or a bad thing, then please do that down in the comments below, as well as recommending me any books that you think that I might like based on the books that I liked here today, or even based on the books that I didn't like if you can find one that did it better. Particularly small coastal fishing village books, any of those, please give those to me. If you are new here and you want to see how I get on with picking up a couple of these books in the future, then please hit that subscribe button. And if you are one of my lovely returning subscribers who is sitting there mouth agape that I liked these two books, then please hit that thumbs up button on your way out, because it really does help my channel. And I will speak to you all very soon from my own library. Bye!